Yeah, I need water.
I was wondering if you were live, Albert. Oh, you're dancing. You're dancing.
That's the way I roll. You just put a sticker on that. I don't know if I trust you.
Keep going in circles looking for it there.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to think of which one ever.
How are we doing, Blake? You good?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Made
Oh,
it.
yeah. Oh, nice. That's nice. Of course, of course. I would absolutely. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. One of these days I'll have to wear one of my baby grow boots. Nice. Very nice. Very nice.
You all set? Good evening. Calling into session a common city council meeting for the city of Brookings, Monday, April 22nd at 7 p.m. We'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Counselor Mulder.
Here.
Counselor Pareda.
Here.
Counselor Martin.
Here.
Counselor Fulton. Here. Mayor Hodges.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving right into action item D, oral requests and communications from the audience. Again, I am reading these off as they came up. You'll have 5 minutes as a reminder in your time to speak. And when you come up to the microphone, please give your name and address. First form I have here is from Ron Schneerson.
Good evening, Ron Schneerson, 111 Schooner Bay Drive. I'd like to start by asking a few questions for you to ponder. What identity does our city project or communicate to our residents or visitors? What does Brookings offer to our visitors? What are our core values? What was Brookings like before it was called Brookings? What is the long-term vision of Brookings? I want to talk to you about public art, and I want to share that public art can project a culture, a city's history, can foster a unique sense of identity and place. It can enhance the quality of life for a city, desirability for the community. Public art can beautify urban spaces, making a space more visually appealing and engaging. It can revitalize neglected or underutilized areas, contributing to the overall regeneration of urban spaces. Public art can attract tourists, boosting local business and economy. It can be a catalyst for dialogue, for interaction among people of different backgrounds, promoting social cohesion and understanding. Public art can promote various themes. It can educate on historical events or social issues, inspiring change. Generally speaking, public art contributes to the culture, social, and economic vitality of a city, making it a more vibrant and dynamic place to live and to visit. But public art doesn't just happen. If it does, it doesn't always happen well or with cohesion or continuity through a town. And that's why I want to talk to you about a proven model that we see up and down the coast, throughout the state, and other states as well. And that's a committee on public art. Such a committee would work under the direction of the city council. This body would be charged with being a steward of public art. They would expand, circulate, maintain a collection of city-owned works, and enable and maintain something called I've seen it called an art encounter, which is a platform, if you will, for public consignment art that we can have open up to artists to bring in art, put it in place for 6 or 12 months with the potential of it being purchased. This body would consider gifts or memorials. They can present workshops to artists, schools, and the general public. Such a body would be made up of a cross-section of people from our community, artists that have experience in public art, business leadership, city officials or staff members, and various stakeholders. So if you're interested in a committee on public art, I'd like to propose workshopping such an idea as soon as you deem appropriate. Thank you for your time.
Can I make a comment? Thank you, Ron. I just wanted to let you know during our budget committee meeting with the budget that was approved by the budget committee last week, the city has funding available for mural projects, and then also there's a substantial amount of money that the city has dedicated to tourism promotion and improvements in the downtown area. That hasn't been allocated to any specific project yet, but this I think is a priority of the council and the city, as reflected in the budget.
Wonderful, and this idea, this committee on public art, I want to make sure it's not conflicting with those efforts and maybe complementing those efforts, but also this would be, in my mind, this is kind of a longer-term vision over years, many years. So not necessarily, just confined to the revitalization effort of downtown, but maybe being part of that and more.
Well, I think, thank you for your time. And I think with this funding that the city has appropriated, it's, we're looking for ideas. So this fits right in with that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Luke Martinez.
Hi, good evening. Luke Martinez, 95825 North Bank, Pistol River Road, Gold Beach, Oregon. Thank you for your time tonight, Council. I'm here on behalf of the Aquatic Safety Program for Curry County. I'm here just to follow up on a presentation and proposal I gave back in November of 2023. I just wanted to follow up with that. In the proposal for funding, I asked that the council consider funding the program in 24-25 budget cycle, and that when you had your budget talks that you would consider the proposal. So I'm just here to follow up on that. I do understand that you may have gone through most of your budget cycle, but I just am here to follow up on that and to see if you guys had any questions regarding the proposal, the program. I can always follow up with that. Something I just wanted to mention too was in the proposal, it wasn't directly stated, but the program in the past, we have allocated funding through the TLT as that most of our outreach and education, besides to our public schools, occurs to visitors, those visiting the region. So that's how we have allocated funding in the past, is through visitor services through the TLT. So I just wanted to follow up with that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I believe it's Connie Hunter. there's no name, but there's an email address that says Connie Hunter. I'm going with that.
Thank you. I'm Connie Hunter. I live in Brookings, Oregon. And I'm the vice chair of Coos Curry Housing Authority, but I'm speaking as an individual and not on behalf of the entire Coos Curry Housing Authority. Advocates across the nation are participating in a national week of action starting today, April 22nd, to oppose counterproductive and inhumane efforts to punish and arrest people experiencing homelessness and advocate for the only real solution to homelessness crisis: safe, stable, affordable housing. The National Week of Action, hosted by National Low Income Housing Coalition, the National Homeless Law Center, National Coalition for the Homeless, and National Alliance to End Homelessness, comes as the Supreme Court hears oral arguments today in the case of City of Grants Pass, Oregon versus Johnson. This is the most significant court case about the rights of people experiencing homelessness in decades. The court will decide whether communities that have failed to address the need for affordable housing and shelter can punish unhoused people for sleeping outside with tickets, fines, and arrests, even when there are no other safe or adequate housing or shelter options available. In some ways, the lawsuit is off target. At the beginning of, at the beginning of the state recognizing that there was a housing crisis, the state pointed to the counties to be the fix for the problem. The cities were not even in the mix for the solution. While attending a two-county summit that our regional solution team coordinator put together, his name was Alex Campbell. At that time, Mayor Ron, went to that two-county housing summit, and he let Alex know that the cities needed to have some support and that they, in some of the underdeveloped counties, would be a better partner to fix the problem. The good news is that Governor Kotek agreed, and the new housing funding and initiatives, and including one of her executive orders, addressed the fact they had not included cities. And in fact, they used 10,000 or less as the city's, population or less to be included in that conversation. We've come a long way recently. Our Coos Curry Housing Authority has hired a new executive director, Matt Borstrasse, and he has great development skills and was able to put together a staff, and he were able to put together a funding package that will allow for the development of new units of affordable housing in Gold Beach, Curry County, for the first time in decades. In addition to that, I want to applaud the work of the city in putting together grant applications and a funding package for the infrastructure at US Borax Rio Tinto. And the legislature even recognizes that you have to have infrastructure first before you can have housing, and they're doing special funding packages to address that. In the near future, I'll be working with Representative Court Boyce's office to put together a strategy and communications with the cities who are looking at infrastructure needs and come up with an assessment that makes sense for our neck of the woods. Thank you.
And last but not least, Athena Lyons.
All right. Athena Lyons, 96305 Spindrift Lane, Brookings. Mayor Hodges, Council, and Chief McCray. I've attached a flyer, and I have some for the audience here. This was provided to me by volunteers, of which I am one. Douglas County, Coos, Curry, working together in opposition to the bomb. plan to develop a deployment of windmills along our southern Oregon coast. They have scheduled rallies, we have scheduled rallies beginning in April, which we did 2 of them already in Coos and Bandon, and you'd be surprised that a lot of people don't even realize that it's on again. They think it's a done deal, it's dead, it's not even running, but so education is important. We've scheduled rallies in April running through June now, and I have a schedule here as to when they are, especially for you, Chief, so that you can, Anyway, the first Gold Beach rally will take place in front of the Curry Courthouse at 12 noon on August 27th, which is next Saturday, or this Saturday coming. The sheriff has been apprised of the plans. He has no objections, and I'm sure Brookings will be taking place in the sidewalk in front of Grocery Outlet from 2 to 3:30. So we just go from one to the other. If you have comments or questions, great. Beyond that, spread the word. That's why I'm here, to talk to these people, the audience and the TV, to say, let's make this work. Also, this Friday, the 26th at 12 noon at Bells and Whistles in Harbor, Greg Stelmach, he's a PhD, postdoctoral scholar with emphasis in marine energy at OSU. He's going to hold an informal Q&A. Again, to ask coastal residents what we think. This is the same group that was awarded, or I should say loaned, $2.5 million for this research. So depending on how the turnout of the residents are, we may just get our coffee and sit outside and talk with him. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with this. The only thing for this evil to prevail is for good men and women to do nothing. And you guys proved that by stepping up and becoming our new council. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. So I'm going to give you all copies of this. And then I'm going to leave some here if anybody wants to know where the meetings are. So, anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is it for public comment. So moving on to the agenda item E, consent calendar. This is to approve council minutes for April 8th, 2024, and the monthly financial report for March 2024.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
A second?
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Fulton. Yes. Counselor Pereira.
Yes.
Counselor Malmberg.
Yes.
Mayor Hodges.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And we seem to have separated them. So number 2, receive monthly financial report for March 2024. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept the monthly financial report for March.
Second.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Fulton. Yes. Counselor Pereira.
Yes.
Counselor Malmberg.
Yes.
Mayor Hodges.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item F, staff reports, public hearings, ordinances, resolutions, and final orders. Number 1 on that list is our annual Yard of the Month program. And City Manager, were you going to take that?
I will. Is there anything you want to say, Tony, other than what's in here about it? Okay. So this is simply reauthorizing the Yard of the Month program. This is the 22nd year of it. Each month there's a commercial business as well as a residence that are both selected for Yard of the Month, and that extends for 5 months throughout the summer there. This is simply just a reauthorization to be able to enact this and then spend that money through the summer to be able to make those awards to a residence as well as a commercial business, and then each one is given recognition as well as a $50 credit on their water bill.
Comments?
I just think it's a great program. It honors and acknowledges people who take pride in their community and pride in their neighborhoods. And I think it's really cool. Glad that we do it.
I'll move to approve the reinstatement of the Yard of the Month program for 5 months beginning May 2024.
I second.
Call the question?
Counselor Fulton. Yes. Counselor Pereira.
Yes.
Counselor Malmberg.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Hodges.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, moving on in the agenda to item F2, oppose the U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management offshore wind energy project in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of the city of Brookings. Again, all right.
So, as you can read in the agenda, this is something that the city has been continuing with since June of 2022. It was brought up to council at a council meeting, and the council discussed that and asked for the city to come back with a resolution opposing, or a resolution that asked for BOEM to work with local governments to be able to make that decision, hear from the public and other stakeholders. That was done in June of 22 with that resolution. It was followed up in October of 23 with a letter to BOEM opposing the offshore wind energy that was submitted by the city manager. And then most recently, beginning with Councilor Malmberg, was a request for something more from the city. The county has done a resolution opposing it and asking for more consideration from the federal government and the states with those who are affected, the communities and the organizations. And so the resolution that we have before you is basically the same resolution that the county approved for just changed for us, and then for your consideration to look at as well. There is a letter that follows with that. Here it is. There's a letter that follows with that, just explaining to BOEM the reason for this resolution, and once again explaining the city's concern with the lack of participation in the decision-making process.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions?
I have a couple of comments. So I'm glad the city is speaking out and considering another letter about this and this resolution, and then also an update. In March, I went to the Pacific Fishery Management Council meeting in Fresno, and then again this month, the same meeting in Seattle. The Pacific Fishery Management Council is part of the Commerce Department, and there was a considerable time specifically talking about the wind energy projects off of Brookings, and the council directed the National Marine Fisheries Service to prepare, or it issued a notice of intent to prepare an environmental assessment on the wind energy leases, and specifically talking about the cables that would come to shore and what impact they have from the wind energy sites to the shore, and the several different impacts on fisheries, fish and wildlife. And also there was a lot of comments about the impact to the Port of Brookings of areas that are normally used for sport or commercial fishing that could be taken up by wind energy development. So the council, because it's a federal agency, doesn't really take a position, but it can issue a pretty strong environmental impact statement that could delay or even reverse the leases. So hopefully that will have an impact, but I think it's important that the city go on record again to oppose this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that this new language specifically addresses the Recreation Act of 1963, which the Curry County has addressed in their correspondence, but that act specifically requires that there be a coordinated effort with the city, local and county municipalities on anything that affects recreational areas. And so for us in Brookings, that's not, I mean, that's fishing, right? But that's, we have a lot of tourists that come here to see our, pristine coastline, and they're going to look out and they're going to see windmills, 13 and a half miles offshore. So it's a big impact to our tourism, big impact to our recreational fisheries, as well as commercial interests. And I think that it's really important that we stand united with Curry County and united with the local tribes that have mentioned opposition to this. There is one portion of this that I just question whether or not it's a typo, where it says, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Brookings, Curry County, Oregon, that it is the policy of Curry County. I'm wondering if that should be that it is the policy of the City of Brookings that it will engage in the coordination process with all federal and state agencies.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. If no one else, I have a little bit of a statement to make on this. And that is that I feel like, in one of the speakers earlier, Athena Lyons, alluded to this in Bandon, a lot of people don't completely understand why there's a big issue about this, or maybe even what's going on. They hear about a project or hear about a windmill project. So I took some time to just put my thoughts in order, and I'll read those to you. But I also, in these thoughts, have talked to quite a few people, including tribal members, commissioners, city council people, and just citizens in general. So this is for me. I stand opposed to BOEM's offshore wind energy project of 133,808 acres located, or would to be located 13 and a half to 18 miles off our beautiful Brookings coastal shoreline. The reason, I believe that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, has willfully neglected to take into consideration the concerns of those most affected by their windmill energy proposal. In addition, I believe that BOEM is acting as an officious bully, looking to impose this dishonest will on the people of our region. To support my stand, in a press release from the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw, they remind us of who BOEM really is. The tribes tell us that BOEM states it has engaged with the tribe, but that engagement has amounted to listening to the tribe's concerns and ignoring them and providing promises that they may be dealt with at some later date stage of the process. That's from the tribal chair, Naper. Further on, BOEM has failed to recognize that wind development has impacted the tribe and has failed to assure that wind energy development will do good and not harm the tribe, its members, and the greater coastal community. The tribe will not stand by while a project is developed that causes it more harm than good. They end their statement by illustrating that this is simply green colonialism. And from the Tribal Council of the Tolowa Dee Nation, of whom I am a member, their elected governing body, who possess the constitutional duties and responsibilities to preserve, protect, and promote the best interests of the Tolowa Nation, have resolved for, quote, BOEM to halt all scoping and permitting for offshore wind projects. Again, they express legitimate concerns over unanswered questions, as well as lack of respect for the tribe and the tribal areas. In addition to the tribes, Oregon fishermen from numerous organizations, the Curry and Coos County Board of Commissioners, this city council, and others have all vehemently opposed this BOEM project and made their view known through public proclamation and press releases. Yet the same theme continues. We remain discounted and even disparaged by BOEM. a governmental organization. Questions have been asked of BOEM without respectful attention or often without any response. Adding to BOEM's smugness, when asked to extend the time frame for public comment, BOEM quickly and firmly denied it. As a reminder, this request for the extended time frame wasn't from one or two fishermen, but it was a congressional request, yet they denied it. You will notice in the statement I am making, I have not addressed other concerns like the hazards of large turbines, the disposal of those 200-plus foot long blades, the continual maintenance, the lack of usable power when compared to other sources, the loss of birds, fish, and mammal life, the environmental impact to the ocean and ocean floor, the economic impacts on fishing and tourism, and much more. These are all aspects of this issue that should be addressed with more than placations from BOEM's supported science. But I don't have time for that tonight. The fact is there's a larger fundamental crisis in motion, and that crisis is the flippant lack of respect towards us citizens and the blatant disregard for the democratic makeup of our rights as citizens by a governmental organization. As an example of their dismissive attitudes, further on in the press release from the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw tribes, they state that BOEM had the courtesy to communicate its decision to the state of Oregon well ahead of its public press release. Yet they, BOEM, waited until the 11th hour to send the tribe an email about its decision. This illustrates well the failure of BOEM to meet its obligations to consult with the tribe and to meaningfully consider its concerns. We would have at least expected a phone call from BOEM. End of quote. To me, it is obvious that this group, who happily takes funds from our natural resources, could care less about us. So what do? First, remember we still live in the United States of America, where we are the government. Do not forget this. We should not feel like we are being forced to comply with the wishes of a powerful few. A group who reform environmental law and amend regulations to fit their own desires. Desires, I believe, that should be questioned. And they do this while our own neighbors are restricted from using our abundant natural resources to improve our own economy and lessen its dependence on the government. You should know that we are dealing with a bureaucracy in BOEM. Streamline the burdensome process to decrease the cost and uncertainty for developers of offshore wind projects, quote, directly from their research. And that is up to $1 billion over 20 years. By the way, BOEM has more proposals on the books to further streamline the approval process for more offshore wind projects and use our money to subsidize these actions. If this doesn't upset you, and if you stay silent, then I suppose we do deserve what we get. What we see here is what we should all fight back against. This shouldn't feel good to any of us. It is unreasonable and an almost arbitrary use of power or control, and that is the definition of tyranny. This is the government telling you and me what is best for us, and worse yet, they make it look like they're doing it for our own good. At a basic level, they are telling all of us to be quiet and obey. In closing, many will say that this issue is all but final. The decision is made, and there's nothing we can do about it at this point. Maybe that's right, but if nothing else, we still have a voice, and we need to continue to make our voices heard. Sure, BOEM isn't listening to us, but we have regional, state, and federal representatives and other groups, like Councilor Martin talked about, that need to hear from each of us. And they need a message for them to take a firm and public stance against this project. Their voices mixed with ours can be the ripple that starts a wave of change on this project. Oh, and as far as the overreach of BOEM, remember how this feels during the next election cycle. And that's what I would say. Any other comments?
Well, thank you for that. I'd suggest that you include that with this letter, if we approve this tonight, as comments from the mayor and send to the same people.
Well, that would probably have to be a vote. It wasn't included. I don't know how that would work. As far as it not being included in the packet and being voted on.
Let me try a motion here if we're...
Okay.
I move to adopt Resolution 24-R-1253 opposing the U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management offshore wind energy project in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Brookings and send to BOEM with the correction that Councilor Malberg mentioned, and then also the the letter from Chief McRae and on the city letterhead, the comments from the mayor tonight.
Second.
Call the question?
One other comment real fast. Senator Wyden wasn't included, but I saw on the CC, so we include him as well.
Senator, I'm sorry, say that again?
Senator Wyden.
Okay. And that was Martin, motion, and you seconded. Okay. Okay, Councilor Pereira.
Yes.
Councilor Malmberg.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Bolton.
Yes.
Mayor Hodges.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Anything left on item 2? I believe we went through it all.
No, that was it, Mayor.
All right, moving on to item F3, 2223 streets paving project change order.
Thank you, Mayor Hodges, members of the council. This is a change order for a contract that we had with Tidewater in the 22-23 fiscal year for street paving. At the end of that contract, there's a list of pavement, utility patches and just small pavement projects that happen throughout the city that kind of happen towards the end of that fiscal year. Well, the end of the fiscal year, Tidewater couldn't complete those projects. So in the 23-24 budget cycle, we didn't do a street paving contract, identify projects and have a large project list for them to do because we were trying to save that money for USDA projects we had anticipated that were going to happen this year, which are not. They're going to happen next fiscal year. So there were a couple projects that were added. One particular project was Marina Heights Road. We had several complaints from neighbors up there that there was some parts of the road failing from a significant amount of rain we had this year. So we made repairs to those areas, and then we finished out the 22-23 utility patches. They're random areas, just rough sections of the road. So this represents the wrap up of that contract.
Any questions or comments?
I just appreciate the hard work that the city's been doing and the Tidewater. I'm noticing a lot of those real rough areas that are getting patched, and it makes a big difference. And I've gotten some positive feedback from people, in those neighborhoods that I know, and just really wanted to say thank you for that, and thank Tidewater as well, and the city crews for making that a priority and making our streets better and better. Yep.
I move to authorize the city manager to proceed with the Tidewater contractors change order number 4 in the amount of $55,915.50 and complete the 2022-23 streets paving projects.
I second.
Question?
Councilor Malmberg.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Bolton.
Yes.
Councilor Pereira.
Yes.
Mayor Hodges.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Moving on to number 4, Brookings Electric Vehicle Charging Station Project.
Thank you. I brought this to you in a workshop. I think a couple times we talked about this project. I'm applying for a grant through the Oregon Department of Transportation carbon reduction program. And part of that process, part of the grant application requirement to have a resolution from council to agree to apply for the grant and provide funding, the matching funds, which is a 10% match. I've provided numbers in here for you. The overall project is looking roughly right around $915,500, of which we would be responsible for 10% of that, $91,550. The project includes 3 locations, car charging stations, and then 2 fleet vehicles that will be used by our CRO police officers for their use, electric vehicles.
I know in our workshop on that, Councilor Martin brought up the question as to the way those charging stations will work in public areas, if they're just access that the city will then pay for, are they charged for the usage? Do we know how that works?
Correct. They'll be paying for them.
Paying for
Yeah.
it, not the city.
Right. The ones that we'll have at City Hall are going to be for our fleet vehicles, and they'll have it'll be a key fob that'll allow them to charge their vehicle, and we'll be able to keep track of the electric use on those vehicles, just like we do
Similar to
their
the gas
diesel
card.
use. Yeah, similar to a gas card.
I have some comments. So first of all, I appreciate the staff's time on working on this. I know quite a bit of time has been put into this, but I oppose this. I will vote no tonight if this comes up to a vote. But first of all, I don't support using taxpayer money for the electric vehicle charging stations. I think that's something that private enterprise should do. They would be doing it already if it was a cost effective or if it was a feasible business. So I don't think that it's government's job to do this. $1 million of state money, I think there's a lot of other things that this money could be spent on. And nearly $100,000 of city money, I'm completely opposed to this. During the budget process, we talked about turnouts for the firefighters. It'd be nice to have the city pool covered. People in the audience here have asked us to make improvements to Checo Point Park, but I think there's a lot of other things that we could spend $100,000 on, and parking is already at a premium in downtown Brookings, and I don't support taking parking spaces and using it for this, and I definitely don't support spending city money, taxpayer money from our residents, or spending state tax dollars on this. So I'm opposed to it. I do appreciate Tony's efforts on this, but I'm 100% opposed to this.
Any other comments, questions? Is there further discussion, or? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Well, I appreciate you bringing those thoughts to the table. Those weren't thoughts that I had at all considered. So I just want to mention that.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments as well. And I think from my perspective, it's a difficult decision because I do empathize and relate to a lot of those concerns, while at the same time, I know that this grant money is going to a Oregon city. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, do we want it to come to ours, or do we want it to go to someone else? I think that there's value in it. I don't personally have an agenda. I don't own any electric vehicles, but I know that there's a lot of our residents that do, and I know that there's a lot of tourists that come through our town that do, and probably don't stop in our town, but rather keep going, because we don't have a place for them to charge their vehicles. They just keep going up the coast to the next town that does. So I think that our local businesses are probably losing out a little bit on some of that revenue. I think that our TLT, we're losing out a little bit on some of that revenue. People aren't staying at the local hotels or B&Bs because they're going up the road to somewhere else. I am a little put off by the dollar figure, though. I have to agree with Councilor Martin on that. $100,000 is a lot. But at the same time, I think utilizing this funding to also support getting a couple of vehicles for our community resource officers I think that's a creative way to solve two problems. One, that we had already discussed, providing some additional vehicles for the community resource officers and the additional positions. So I think this might help to resolve some of that and have a creative funding effect. So I think for those reasons, I'm in support of it, but I do appreciate Councillor Martin's comments as well.
I wonder how far out we are on, I know that we replaced a few patrol vehicles, but how far are we out on the resource officers needing replacement vehicles?
Well, at this time, the community resource officer uses an SUV. And so there had been the request for some time by the community resource officer that a pickup would be very beneficial to that position and some of the tasks that she tries to accomplish. So that was the reason for the ask for that, as she doesn't have one, and feels that there would be great benefit with it.
What's the cost to the city of purchasing a single vehicle?
I don't have quotes for that as far as a pickup goes.
Yeah, I'm just, a rough ballpark, because I'm looking at this, half of this, half of our cost of this total would be the cost of one vehicle, I would presume.
Yes.
That it would cost us roughly that. So not only for this amount of money out of our budget, we would get 2 vehicles plus 5 charging stations. And as Councilor Malmberg pointed out, somebody is going to get these state funds because there are already state funds that have been allocated. So I can just see it as the fact that we're already have talked about in our budget cycle of approving that vehicle, and twice of the, paying twice that much, we get not just one more vehicle, but also the 5 charging stations. And I do think it was a good point that, I know we have some friends that own electric vehicles. My daughter and son-in-law now own an electric vehicle. So it is kind of the way it works when you own an electric vehicle, that you plan out your route and you stop where there are charging stations. And I don't think electric vehicles are going away. So I think it's wise of us to have that available for people who would come through our city.
Maybe you could get an electric truck.
I think I might get an electric motor on my boat, but. And I am definitely not opposed to providing a vehicle for the police department, and I've supported public safety with all their budget requests. But again, I'm opposed to this. I think it's not the best use of city money. This is something that a private enterprise should do. And also, where is this going to go? The places that we have that would make the most sense, I think, are better used to have a spot where people can stop and visit one of our restaurants or one of our downtown merchants.
Well, I am going to make an motion to adopt resolution 24R1254, authorizing submission of a carbon reduction program grant application to the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Brookings Electric Vehicle Charging Station project.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Councilor Martin.
No.
Councilor Bolton.
Yes.
Councilor Pereira.
Yes.
Councilor Malmberg.
Yes.
Mayor Hodges.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right. Moving on to number 5, Oak Street Sewer Main Repair. That be you, Mr. Barron?
Yep. So you're all aware of the failed sewer main that was on Oak Street. We had our crew out there that exposed the failed pipe and was able to get it to a point where we could have an emergency contractor come in and repair it. Some of these projects, when they get as deep as that was, our equipment can't quite reach it, and it's just our capabilities are not there. So we contacted Tidewater. I reached out to McLennan Contracting as well, and they declined. But Tidewater said they can get on it, and so they were able to mobilize the next day and get working on it and get it repaired. So this task order represents the cost of that emergency repair with all their time involved in it. And I did confirm with Harbor Sanitary that per our contract, there is a cost share on this, which is identified in financial impact of 57% for Harbor San and 43% for the city. So just wanted to share that with you.
And does this 55,322 represent the 43% the city?
That's the whole amount.
This is the whole amount. Okay. And then the city then would recoup some of that cost through Harbor Sanitary.
We'll invoice Harbor San.
Okay. Gotcha.
What other, and I support going ahead with this, but are there additional costs that are going to be coming up to further repair this or to prevent this from happening again?
The pipe is the remaining section of the pipe that goes down to the manhole. That's about 250 feet further down. I think it's a pipe lining candidate, so we'll probably do a lining project on that whole pipe when we have a contractor in town to do all that work, which I mentioned at budget our last budget meeting, that when we have a lot of CIPP, which is cast in place pipe. We try and get all these projects lined out. So this would be one we try to add to the list. And we need to coordinate with Harbor San, obviously, because there's a cost share on it. So
Was it just an old pipe?
It's really hard to say. There was some erosion of that pipe at that section. It degrades less the further down you go, but if you were there, I think Kelby probably witnessed it. But when their pumps kick on, it's a river. It's a lot, and so there's a heavy, high velocity flow through there. So, yeah, that can wear a pipe out, especially if it's asphaltic concrete or asbestos concrete is what it is. AC.
Is there's obviously some kind of issue going on with that private property that borders this. Does this have anything to do with that? It looks like they're having some kind of standing water issue. Where the newspaper used to be.
No, they removed a planter and dug that out. They're making a parking lot. I had nothing to do with that. No.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I move to authorize city manager to proceed with the Tidewater Contractors Task Order Number 4 in the amount of $55,322.51 for an emergency repair to the sanitary sewer main on Oak Street.
I'll second.
Councilor Fulton. Yes. Councilor Freda.
Yes.
Councilor Malmberg.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Hodges.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. And item F6, city manager recruitment. And the Prothman city manager recruitment flyer.
Thank you, Mayor. On March 18th this year, the city's recruitment flyer for city manager was posted on Prothman's website as well as the city's website. And the flyer that's attached is the one that all of you have seen and what has been posted on Prothman's and the city's website. Yesterday was the closing for the first look of those applicants. but no interviews have taken place yet. The application process is still open. It's just first look began yesterday. And I did speak with our recruiter, Richard, a couple of times today from Prothman on that to get an update from him. And before any interviews take place, I just wanted to make sure that if there was anything in the flyer that anyone wanted to change in any way, after having a chance, it's been up for approximately a month. If there's anything that came up and was a standout, anything that's in the time since it's gone up that you reflected on and thought, oh, you know what, I'd really like to add this, or I think it's important that we have something else or something in addition to as an important hiring point. I wanted to give the council that opportunity to give that input prior to any interviews taking place. Richard will be going through, and I'll kind of just do the quick update at the same time. There are 22 applicants as of yesterday. As I said, it does remain open. And over this next week and a half to 2 weeks, Richard will be going through all of those applicants and going through and vetting them as far as their experiences and their qualifications as compared to what the council has for the their vision of city manager as far as their qualifications and qualities. And from there, we'll then produce a recommended list for the council to then review prior to any final interviews. And backing up through this next week and a half to 2 weeks, as he goes through and makes that list of those to interview, he will do an initial interview with each one of them, talking about some of those points that the city council is looking for and just getting some information from them. And that's how he will create his recommended list. I'll have some information later this week I'll be able to provide to the council just with some of the qualifications that those applicants have. But prior to any interviews of those applicants, I wanted to make sure if there's anything that the council feels is important to add or change in any way, that we do that before any interviews take place.
Well, I'm pleasantly encouraged to hear that there's that number of applicants with just the first month's posting, and I think it's reassuring that we have the right people on the job doing the recruiting. So I'm glad to hear that. I don't have any recommended changes personally, but just glad to hear that much interest out there.
Good.
Anyone else?
Thanks for the update. And again, thanks for your work and the department directors and the rest of the staff for working so hard during this transition period.
Thank you.
All righty. Moving on then to, you just did G, correct, as well?
I did. Really, the only thing to add to that was the 22. And then, as I said, the application does remain open throughout these next couple of weeks, as he will be doing the vetting and the interviews with the candidates. So if someone at this last minute does see that and wants to apply, then they'll still be added to the list.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then agenda item H, remarks from mayor, councilors, and city manager. Go for it.
So first, I want to apologize for missing the previous council meeting as I was out of town. but I wanted to weigh in on the topic of vacation rentals. So it's obvious, I don't think anybody denies that there's a lack of workforce housing in Brookings, that there's an issue with homeless people and no place for them, and also a lack of rentals in town. But I don't believe that having further restrictions on vacation rentals will solve that. I think part of the problem with the lack of rentals is some of the state policies and problems that landlords have had in the past with regulations by the state. I don't think the city needs to add further regulations or restrictions. I've talked to several people who have vacation rentals, and reasons that they have them are for bad experiences when they had those as rentals in the past. And then others, there's a large number of vacation rentals in town that are used for part of the year as vacation rentals, and then people who are absentee owners who live in Brookings part of the year and elsewhere the rest of the year, they come here and they enjoy their homes, and then they rent them out as vacation rentals during other times. I don't think it's the city's job to tell people what they can do with their property, or who they rent their house to, or how they use their house when they're not here. So this has been an issue before the council previously, the planning commission. So I am opposed to any more restrictions on vacation rentals. I don't think that's going to solve our housing shortage here. We obviously have a problem, but that I do not believe is a solution.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sure. Thank you to those that spoke today and bringing up great ideas, ways to make our city better. Also, just like Councilmember Andy said, thank you so much, Chief Manager McCray, for certainly taking on a lot and making sure that everything has continued to run smooth. With your leadership, it is certainly, we've been very lucky to have you step into that place. So thank you very much on that. And
you have a great staff.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And last but not least, on those electric stations, making sure that they're on our websites and they're identified very clearly so people going through know that they will be there. It's going to be really important for us to make good use of those items. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, in that case, no one else, we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:59.
Just what I was thinking.